Something big may be brewing within the division, and if the rumors are true, it could completely change the future of the defense next season. A proven veteran pass rusher may already be looking for a way out of his current situation, and for a team desperately needing help pressuring the opposing quarterback, this could be the perfect opportunity at the perfect time. The question now is whether the front office is ready to make an aggressive move before another title contender gets ahead of them. But first, click the like button and subscribe to stay up to date on everything happening behind the scenes. Let's go! Something is clearly happening behind the scenes in the NFC West, and if the rumors coming out of Arizona are accurate, the San Francisco 49ers could have a golden opportunity to completely change the outlook of their defense before the 2026 season even begins. Because while most people around the league are focused on the 49ers recovering from injuries, reworking the roster, and trying to bounce back after a disappointing defensive season, there's another storyline quietly developing that could end up becoming one of the biggest moves of the offseason. And the craziest part? The solution to San Francisco's biggest weakness might actually be sitting inside the division right now. According to multiple reports surrounding the Arizona Cardinals organization, defensive end Josh Sweat is reportedly unhappy in Arizona, and the situation has been building for weeks. He has not shown up to organize team activities, and the belief around league circles is that the veteran edge rusher no longer sees Arizona as the place where he wants to spend the prime years of his career. Now, think about this from the 49ers' perspective. This is a football team that desperately needs help generating pressure off the edge. Last season, the pass rush completely disappeared at times, and for a franchise that built its identity around defensive line dominance for years, that simply cannot continue if the Niners want to get back into championship contention. And when you start connecting the dots, this suddenly becomes a move that makes almost too much sense. Josh Sweat is entering his age 29 season, which means he is still right in the middle of his prime years. He's not some aging veteran hanging on for one last contract. He's still productive, still explosive, still durable, and still one of the better edge rushers in football when healthy. Since 2019, he has missed only 5 games. For a 49ers team that has constantly battled injuries over the last decade, that level of reliability matters a lot more than people realize. And then there's the production. Over the last several seasons, Sweat has consistently proven he can pressure quarterbacks at a high level. In 2022 with the Eagles, he recorded 11 sacks during Philadelphia's Super Bowl run. The following year, he added another solid campaign, and in 2024, when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, he was part of the defensive front that completely overwhelmed Patrick Mahomes on the biggest stage. That defensive line generated 6 sacks in the Super Bowl without blitzing once, and Sweat played a huge role in the chaos that Kansas City struggled to handle all night. Then came his season in Arizona. Despite playing on a team that is still rebuilding and lacks stability at quarterback, Sweat had the best sack season of his career with 12 sacks. 12. On a struggling football team. Inside a division where offenses are explosive and quarterbacks can move. That kind of production immediately grabs attention, especially from a 49ers organization that finished dead last in sacks last season. That's where this entire conversation becomes fascinating, because if there's one thing Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers know entering this season, it's that they cannot afford another year where opposing quarterbacks are comfortable in the pocket. Shanahan himself admitted recently that the defense must improve because the level of quarterback play the Niners will face this year is going up significantly. And right now, there are major questions surrounding San Francisco's edge group. Nick Bosa is coming off a torn ACL. Mike Williams is also recovering from a torn ACL. Bryce Huff retired. The young rotational players have potential, but there's still uncertainty about whether they can consistently produce at a championship-caliber level. That's why a player like Josh Sweat becomes so intriguing. He checks nearly every box the 49ers traditionally look for at defensive end. He has elite size at 6'5" and 265 pounds. He can pressure the quarterback. He can collapse the pocket. He can defend the run. And importantly, he fits the exact physical profile San Francisco has prioritized for years along the defensive front. What makes this even more interesting is the contract situation. Sweat still has 3 years left on his deal, but there's reportedly no guaranteed money remaining after 2026. That gives a potential trade partner flexibility moving forward. His cap hit for 2026 would be only around $12.6 million if acquired via trade. And for a team like San Francisco, which currently has close to $70 million in cap space, absorbing that contract would not be difficult at all. And if we're being honest here, the compensation probably wouldn't be outrageous either. The belief is that Arizona could potentially move him for something in the range of a 3rd or 4th round pick. If that's truly the asking price, then the conversation becomes very serious very quickly. Because you're not talking about trading premium first-round assets for a gamble. You'd be acquiring a proven veteran pass rusher who immediately upgrades one of the weakest areas on the roster. Even the advanced metrics support the idea. Last season, Sweat posted a 74. 2 overall PFF grade, ranking 31st among 115 edge rushers. His pass rush grade ranked 29th, placing him firmly in the upper-tier starter category across the league. He also added 47 pressures and 29 quarterback hurries while continuing to hold his own against the run. And honestly, when you look at everything together, the injuries, the lack of pass rush, the cap flexibility, the fit in the defensive scheme, the affordable trade value, and the fact that Sweat may genuinely want out of Arizona, this starts to feel less like fantasy and more like a realistic possibility. Because championship windows don't stay open forever in the NFL. The 49ers know that. And if San Francisco truly believes this roster can still compete for another Super Bowl run, then standing still at defensive end would be a massive gamble. The opportunity is sitting right there in front of them. Now, the big question is whether the front office is aggressive enough to go make it happen. What do you think, faithful? Should the 49ers trade for Josh Sweat? Or should they trust the current group of pass rushers already on the roster? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. What makes this entire situation even more dangerous for the rest of the NFC is the timing of it all. Because while the headlines around the league continue to focus on flashy offensive moves and superstar quarterbacks, the 49ers are sitting in a position where one defensive addition could completely rebalance the identity of this football team again. And if you've watched San Francisco over the last several years, you already know exactly how this organization wins football games when it's operating at its peak. It starts with violence at the line of scrimmage. It starts with relentless pressure. It starts with making quarterbacks uncomfortable before they can even settle into a rhythm. That formula carried the 49ers to deep playoff runs for years. But last season, that identity disappeared way too often. The pressure numbers dropped. Opposing quarterbacks had too much time. And for the first time in a long time, the defense no longer looked feared on a weekly basis. That's why this Josh Sweat conversation is getting so much traction among fans right now. Because he represents something the current roster desperately needs. Proven production. Not projections, not potential, not another developmental edge rusher who might need 2 years before becoming impactful. A proven NFL pass rusher. And when you evaluate where the 49ers currently stand, there's real urgency here whether people want to admit it or not. Nick Bosa is still the centerpiece of the defense, but returning from a torn ACL is never automatic. Even elite players sometimes need time before fully looking like themselves again. The explosiveness has to return. The confidence has to return. the conditioning has to return. And the 49ers cannot put the entire burden of fixing the pass rush solely on Bosa's shoulders immediately after recovery. That's where Sweat changes everything. Imagine offenses trying to game plan against a healthy Bosa on one side and Josh Sweat on the other. Suddenly, protections become complicated again. Suddenly, quarterbacks can't just slide all their attention one direction. Suddenly, the interior defensive line benefits, because edge pressure collapses the pocket faster. And maybe most importantly, the younger pass rushers on the roster wouldn't be forced into oversized roles too early. That matters a lot, because one of the biggest mistakes teams make in the NFL is assuming young talent will immediately develop into consistent production. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. The 49ers drafted players they like, and there's definitely upside in that room, but relying entirely on upside when your championship window is still open can become a dangerous gamble. What also stands out here is how perfectly Sweat fits the culture and style of defense San Francisco has always preferred. This isn't a situational speed rusher who only plays obvious passing downs. He's physical against the run. He sets the edge. He has length. He understands leverage. He's battle-tested in playoff football. And those traits matter tremendously in a division where teams want to run outside zone concepts and force defenders into space. And remember, this isn't some random breakout player coming off one lucky season. Josh Sweat has done this for years now. He developed inside one of the best defensive line systems in football with the Philadelphia Eagles. He played under Jonathan Gannon, the same coach who reportedly influenced his move to Arizona in the first place. But now that situation appears unstable, and suddenly there's an opening for a contender to strike. That's another key detail fans shouldn't overlook. Players at this stage of their careers start thinking differently. When you're 24 or 25 years old, maybe you can tolerate rebuilding seasons. Maybe you can convince yourself the long-term vision is worth it. But once you hit your late 20s, especially after already proving yourself in the league and winning at high levels, priorities change fast. You want meaningful football. You want playoff games. You want a legitimate shot at another championship. And if Sweat truly feels Arizona is years away from competing seriously, then it makes perfect sense why frustration would begin building now. Meanwhile, from San Francisco's perspective, this move checks boxes financially, strategically, and competitively. The cap space is there. The need is there. The scheme fit is there. And perhaps most importantly, the urgency is there. Because, let's be honest about something. The NFC is not getting easier. Quarterback play across the conference is improving. Offenses are becoming more explosive. Young stars are emerging everywhere. If the 49ers defense doesn't improve significantly up front, simply hoping internal development solves everything could backfire badly. And Kyle Shanahan already acknowledged that reality publicly. He specifically mentioned the need for the defense to take a major step forward because the level of competition at quarterback is increasing. That statement alone tells you the organization fully understands what's at stake entering this season. So now, the question becomes simple. Will the 49ers front office actually attack the problem aggressively? Or will they wait and hope the current group exceeds expectations? Because opportunities like this don't stay available forever. If Arizona truly decides Josh Sweat is movable, there will absolutely be other contenders interested. Teams around the league are always searching for productive edge rushers, especially ones with playoff experience, durability, and manageable contracts. The market for pass rushers is brutal because there simply aren't enough elite defensive linemen available at any given time. That's why this moment feels important. The 49ers have a chance to address one of the biggest weaknesses on the roster with a player who fits almost perfectly stylistically and financially. And if they pull it off, this defense suddenly looks far more dangerous than people currently expect heading into 2026. Because when San Francisco has a dominant defensive front, everything changes. The secondary looks better, the linebackers play faster, the turnovers increase. The entire energy of the football team shifts. That's the ripple effect elite pass rushers create. And Josh Sweat might be the exact kind of move capable of bringing that identity back to the Bay Area. Now I want to hear from the faithful. If the Cardinals are truly willing to move Josh Sweat for a third or fourth round pick, would you make that trade immediately? Or do you think the 49ers should stay patient with the young players already on the roster? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button, and subscribe for more exclusive 49ers coverage all off-season long.